Greetings, TVR2A. This is a video walkthrough of Pro Tools Lab number 9 on a Mac using Pro Tools Intro. This is mixing a music session. You'll be given a pre-existing Pro Tools session that will have different parts in it, like a song. And you'll be balancing them, working with the faders, creating some automation, using plugins, and doing some editing. And when you're all finished, you will be bouncing the mix and you'll have a completed song. So this is as if you were going to be a recording engineer and you've recorded the tracks in a studio, and now it's time for you to edit them, mix them, and then pass them off to the client as a finished product. It is in Canvas, and you'll go ahead and click on the file, which is a zip file right here, and you're going to download it. Now this is going to be a larger file. It's about 160 megabytes or so. So it might take some time to download, but once it's downloaded, go ahead and find it in your downloads folder, unzip it with a double click on, it's called Rev 4416 Chopping Wood 7 Tracks.zip. Unzip it and then go ahead and drag that folder, which is the blue folder, into your documents directory, and we'll put it into the folder that we've been using for the class, Projects TVR2A. You can open that up and then go locate it. Remember, it's called Rev 4416 Chopping Wood. You can now double click on that folder to open it, and you're looking for the .ptx file, and you're going to double click on it to launch Pro Tools. And this is using Pro Tools Intro, which is the free version. I'll go ahead and double click. Great, so the session has opened. The first thing you want to do is go ahead and double check your playback engine. So go up to your setup menu, go to playback engine, and in here just double check what you're using. I have to use something called the aggregate device. You'll be able to just use the MacBook speakers or your computer speakers in this case. Since we're not doing any recording into this session, you don't have to worry about the microphone. All right, so you'll be using your speakers, or if it says headphones, you'll be using that. I'm just using aggregate because I'm also creating a video at the same time. So just double check that's under setup menu playback engine. And you can go ahead and double check on your mixer screen that you have your outputs all set. It should say analog 1-2 or might say headphones on yours. And again, the input doesn't concern us. And again, this is the mixer view. I'm just dragging it off the page for now. All right, you can go ahead and return key and hit the space bar to play it.
Ain't too good at chopping wood, but my daddy said I should.
So you can listen to the whole thing. This is an unmixed version of this song, so there's been no panning, there's been no fader moves, everything is at 0. There's no effects processors, there's been no editing or anything yet. All right, so I'm going to jump onto our canvas and just go ahead and take a look at the first few instructions. You'll see here it says the first one is to go ahead and organize your tracks, and by doing that we're going to go ahead and color code our tracks. Drums will be yellow, the strings are red, and the vocals are green. Now, some additional information about this particular session, just for the background, is this is a bluegrassy acoustic band that set up live in a studio, and they went ahead and recorded everything at once. And so what I mean is you have a bunch of different mics in the studio, but they're all playing at the same time. So it's, it's a very live vibe, a live performance, but this also means that sounds can leak in from the different instruments onto the various mics that are set up in the room. And in this case, you're going to hear a lot of bleed on the mics, and that means you have to go and do editing, because you want to edit out any sorts of bleed from other instruments and singers that don't actually involve that particular track. So you've got electric bass. Now he's the one person who is not using a mic, so he just plugged directly into the recording interface. So there's no mic there, so there won't be any bleed on the bass track. There's a drum track, which is a mixed version of the multiple mics that you find on the drum set. So we just mixed it down to a stereo file, so you can just increase or decrease and edit the entire mix of the drums. And then you've got the acoustic guitar, which you'll hear. You've got a fiddle, which is mic'd up. You've got Jason singing vocals. You have a person named Clay singing vocals. And you have a female named Andy singing vocals. Now, Clay and Andy are the leads, the two lead singers, but they also harmonize with themselves. Jason only comes in on one little section towards the end. So Jason has a lot of parts that you'll be editing out. So let's go ahead and get going on that organization aspect. So I mentioned here that I want the drums to be yellow, I want strings to be red, and the vocals to be green. So when I talk about colors, I'm talking about the color here on the side of the edit window, but also I'm talking about the color on the mixer. So if you do Command equals, you'll get to that screen, and you'll see there's a color beam here. There's also one way at the bottom. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and kind of shrink this down, and then I'll scroll to the bottom of the track. You'll see the colors are right here. And right now it's blue. So I'm going to go to the drums, and I'm going to double click on that blue, and it's going to bring up a color palette. And I want them to be yellow. Now you notice when I clicked the yellow color, it went ahead and it colored the bottom and the top of the track. But I also want the actual track to be colored. Like instead of this gray, let's see if we can get it to be colored a little bit better. And to do that, I'm going to go ahead and click on this drop down where it says UI customization in the lower left hand corner. And so I'm going to go ahead and open up the tracks underneath the UI theme. And here you'll see there's a slider that says track header saturation. It's at 0. I'm going to drag that to about here. You'll see when I do that, it begins to color the whole track a little bit. And you can keep going, depending on how much color you want to see. I'll go about this far. And now the track looks yellow instead of just gray. Okay, so that's drum track yellow. The strings we want to be red. Strings means anything that has a string on it, so that would be bass. And again, I'm going to do Command equals to do it from this screen. Do bass, I'm going to do acoustic guitar. I'm going to hold Shift key and click on the name and also on the fiddle. So all three of those are now selected. And then I can let go of the Shift key and just double click on the blue beam at the bottom. And this one we want red. So go ahead and just click on red. And then the last three says vocals are going to be green. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump back onto our mixer. Let's click on Jason, hold the Shift key, click on Clay, hold the Shift key, click on Andy. Let go of Shift key and now double click on the blue beam at the bottom. And this one is supposed to be green. So let's go ahead and choose that green. You can do any color you want, really. You just want them to be different. Well, why do we like to color code these tracks? Because in a large mixing session where you could have 30 or 40 different tracks, it's very helpful for you to be able to glance at the screen and locate things based on color groups instead of having to scroll through every single track. So you can get into the habit of always having certain instruments be certain colors, and then you can quickly maneuver around the screen and find what you like. All right, so that takes care of that step. Next step says noise removed from tracks, edit and cut and delete regions that have 1 or more seconds of silence or unusable audio that's not part of the track, and then see below for my specific areas. Zoom in, and the first cut we'll do will be to the drum track at 2 minutes and 12 seconds until 2 minutes and 32 seconds. Let's go ahead and look at that. So here's my drums at the top. It says drum stereo. I'm going to zoom in. I see 3040, so I'm going to go ahead and zoom in with letter T until I see the seconds clicking. But now I see seconds. You see this? I'm going to bring this window down just a little bit so we can see it. And then I'm going to go to the drum track, and it said 2 minutes and 12 seconds. So let's go ahead and scroll to 2 minutes and 12 seconds. That's going to put me right about here. Now I am going to go ahead and solo that drum track. So you see the letter S, solo it. I'm going to back up with the cursor. I'm in Smart Tool and I'm in slip mode. I see. So there's some of that bleed. You can actually hear some of the fiddle leaking through on those drum mics. So it appears that we have about a 20-second section where there's no drums of any kind. And we want to go ahead and get rid of that. So we get rid of all that room noise. So right after the hit. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to do letter B. And I'm going to scroll to where they pop in again, which is right around here. I'm going to do B again. Now remember, stay in slip mode. You never want to be in shuffle mode for this assignment. So always slip mode. That way you don't move tracks around by mistake. Single click with your grabber, and now you can use the delete key. And it'll remove that section. And then listen. So now it's 100% silent, and then when he kicks back in. All right. So that's, again, we would kind of call this cleaning up the tracks. You could spend a lot of time doing things like this, right? Sometimes it looks like it's silent, but there's little tiny bumps, so there must be something there. Yeah, so he's just playing real light there. Okay. And then here too, if we listen. Yeah, he's hitting the cymbals there. Real quiet, real dainty sounds. All that too. So you can't always rely on your eyes. So if you just look and you think you see a solid line, a lot of times there's other things happening. And you got to zoom in a little bit to see. But in our case, we just wanted to get rid of that one section of the drums where there was, no need for any kind of drum tracks at all. All right, so there's that edit. Referring back to these instructions, now it says edit everything on all tracks from 3 minutes and 8 seconds. That sounds like the end. So let's go to the end of the track. 3:08. And that's going to put us right about here. There's that big hit. I see. I'm going to unsolo so I can hear everything, and let's hear it. Oh, so you can actually hear someone talking in the background even. So we want to go to 3:08, which is going to put me right about here. You could also go right to the location if you click in the counter and then type 08, hit return. That'll put you there too. Now I want this to be across all my tracks, so I am going to hold the shift key and I'm going to click on all of these tracks. Okay, I got them all. You can see the one big cursor flashing now. And now I can do letter B, and it creates a break on all tracks. And now I can go ahead and hold shift key, and I can grab all of this stuff that I just did, and I can delete. And that gets rid of that talking part at the end. So now it just hits, and it's done. All right, so that takes care of that one. So that was this one. Now we go to this one where it says fiddle track edits. We're going to go to the fiddle, delete everything from 0 to 29 seconds. So that's our first cut. So let's go to the fiddle. I'll solo the fiddle with letter S. And go to the very beginning. And if I play it, oops, return key. So we have all this leaking in. I hear singing and drums. And we need to go to where the fiddle actually is going to kick in. I feel like it's here. There he is. And it's about 30 seconds. What did I say on the paper? 29. So it's right in that area, 29-ish. And we're going to go ahead and create our break right there. All right. It's closer to 30, but anywhere in here will work. So I single click, so I have the cursor clicking. I'm doing that with the selector tool. I do letter B. Again, you're in slip mode, so no tracks are moving. Click with your grabber on the left and delete. And now you have fiddle only. I'm even going to tighten it up just like this. Nice. So that's my first edit on that fiddle track. The second one says 1:07 seconds until 1:19 seconds. So let's jump to 1:07. I'll do that in the counter up top. And let's go ahead and play that fiddle part. All right, looks like he is out. All right, and I'm going to put it right about here, just a little before 1:07. Letter B, and then I'll go ahead and let it play. Ah, he creeps back in right about there. It's about 1:19. So 1:19, flash it with the cursor because I'm in selector tool. I'm using smart tool. Letter B. Now I can click on that section and that will get rid of all of that space. And then give it a listen. Okay, nice. So now the fiddle's playing. Now it says go to Jason Vox, and the only thing that should remain is from 219 to 229. Everything else is going to be deleted. Remember, I mentioned Jason. I think Jason is probably the guitar player who's also singing. So he's got a mic on his guitar, but he also has a mic for his voice. All right, and the voice we're hearing is not Jason. So we need to go find that section where he sings. And in the instructions, I think it said it was something like 219 or so. Let's see. There he is. So every time. So right there. And every time. All right, so it's right in here. It's about 219.8. Letter B. Now in this case, I'm going to click here and I'm going to wipe everything out from here all the way back to the beginning. So that's completely gone. Now Jason is only right here.
Every time I fall in love, I hug and kiss and push and shove. I'm solid, then I'm soft, and then I'm gone, and then I'm back again. I am a saint, but my heart's filled with sin.
That's it. Right after he says the word send, letter B. And now I click to the right, and all of this can disappear. This is from here all the way to the very end. And now what you're left with, if I zoom out a little bit, you'll see Jason just has that little tiny piece right there. That's all he does with his voice. I did letter R, by the way. So that's Jason part he's edited. All right, the next one is Clay Vox. Cut out anytime he's not singing. All right, so Clay is here. Let's solo him with letter S. You can kind of get the idea of where he is singing anytime you see the waveform.
Ain't too good.
All right, and I'm going to do these fast, so you can go ahead and pause the video if you need. But I'm going to go ahead and cut out all of these sections and then come back. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause. All right, we're back, and I went ahead at the same time as editing my Clay vocal track. I went ahead and also edited Andy's vocal track. So now you can see what I'm left with. See how I've chopped up all the sections where they were not singing, or they had sections where they were taking long breaths or something. Anything over 1 second long, I was considering noise. So if it was longer than a second, I went ahead and chopped it away. So now you can clearly see we have the Andy vocal here. We have Clay's vocal here. You can see where they sing together and then when they don't sing together. And then here we have all three of the singers singing harmonies together. And then Clay and Andy are back right here. And then I chop everything out at the end. Now I'm in Smart Tool and I'm doing a lot of highlights and delete key. So it's highlighting, deleting, and then trimming, but never moving. So never sliding the clips back and forth. Again, you want to remain in slip for this whole assignment. So just deleting unused or unneeded parts of the clip. All right, so that's going to take me down to additional requirements. Now it says EQ every plugin. It says EQ plugin inserted on every track. Try to use a different EQ shape. And then step 2. So let's go ahead and do the plugin. All right, so let's unsolo my tracks. And I like to do the plugins always from my mixer. So I do Command equals. And I'm going to go towards the top where it says Inserts A, and I'm going to go ahead and insert an EQ. Now you do notice that my drum track is the only one that looks different than the others. You see there's two panning knobs, which means this is a stereo audio track. It has a left side and a right side. The others are all mono tracks. So when I do the plugin for the drums, it is going to look slightly different because it says multi-channel plugin, EQ, and then we're going to use EQ37 band. And that's going to give me this little module that shows me a line of frequency and then these little colored dots that you can click and drag up and down if you want to really shape your EQ for that track. You can, or for the sake of time, you can simply go find a preset. So you'll see a preset where it says factory default, click the drop down arrow, and I'm going to go to something about drums. Let's do drum overheads, or I want to do one of these. I'm going to go ahead and try drum overhead and see what it does. Alright, so I got rid of some bass frequency. I'm going to solo the drum track and I'm going to play it. I'm going to bring some of the bass back in. And I'm going to bump it with the orange. I like that better. I get a little more of the kick drum if I do this. Okay, good. So you saw what I did. I kind of tweaked the existing line, and now that's the EQ shape for the drum track. And once you have your setting, you go ahead and click in the upper left-hand corner, the red dot, and then move on to the next track. My next track, I'll solo it, and this should be the bass. So go to your insert. Again, this is technically called Insert A, and you're going to click once. Now notice it doesn't say multi-channel because these are mono. You're going to go to plugin, EQ, and then choose EQ37 band. And in here, you'll see, again, preset factory default, bass guitar, and let's go to big, clean bass. Now, I'm just picking these at random. You could pick anything you want, and you can work with the sound however you feel. Alright, so we get the idea. Again, you can tweak these as you want. Like I'm going to move them around a little tiny bit because it's a little thin. So I'm going to do these and then just hit the space bar and listen. Also, you can do these moves while it's playing. So you can hear the difference in the frequency fluctuation as you move those color dots up and down. It is from left to right. It is low end to high end. You'll see the hertz down here where it says 20, 50, 100. And then you have plus or minus 12, 6, 0. The higher up you pull it, the louder that frequency becomes. Anyhow, I'm happy with that. I'm going to move on. And again, you're going to do all of this. So I'll go ahead and finish up the EQ real quick here. So I know the next track is acoustic guitar. So let's go ahead and choose EQ7 band. And let's see if there's an acoustic guitar. There it is. Acoustic guitar. Add zing, big acoustic, cut the boom. Let's see what happens if I do that. Nice. All right. Happy. Next one is a fiddle. So it's the same process for each. Each of these are going to get a unique shape. Let's see if there's anything. It says strings, and it says thin string machine, soft detail, reduced bow, add weight, add sizzle, add detail. Let's try add sizzle. Gives me a lot of high end. All right, I am going to jump ahead to hear this. I know that they come in a little bit later. I think it's like 29 or something. Good. And what I just did is I dropped the low end out because I could hear the bass drum leaking in the mic. So in this case, these aren't frequencies that the fiddle is going to create. So if I pull those down, I'm not necessarily going to change the sound of the fiddle, but I am going to reduce some of that bleed from the mic. So I just did that to get rid of some of the bass drum part. All right, so that was good. That was the fiddle. And now we move into the voices. And this first one is Jason. So let's go ahead and do the plugin, EQ, 7 band. Jason, and let's see what kind of presets we have for that. We have vocals, male vox, reduce plosive, smooth vocal. Let's do solidify male. All right, nice. Just adds a little low end bump. Now he comes in way later. I think it's like 2:19 or so. Let's solo him.
Every time I fall in love, I hug and kiss and push and shove.
All right, nice.
I'm solid.
Yeah, I like that one. So that's good. Let's go to Clay. Remember to close those EQs so you don't get confused on which one you're working on. I'm going to go to the Clay, which is this one here. By the I know you can't see the names, but it's the same order that you see over on yours. I can go ahead and make that smaller. All right, so now I'm in the Clay part, and it's EQ, plug-in, and I'm doing the EQ 3/7 band. And I'm going to the vocal preset folder, and let's do the same one. Only I'm going to give this a little bit of a bump here. And let's listen to him.
Time I fall. Ain't too good at chopping wood, but my daddy said I should. Need a gal with a nice strong back, childbearing hips in a one-room shack. I'm a hard worker every day. Dirty hands and a little pay.
All right, so in this case, because I want to give him a different shape than Jason, I did go ahead and modify those a little bit. Now, you did see that I got a little bit of a peak here. So I'm a little too hot, so I did pull this down just a little bit. And also, you can always check these EQs. If you hit bypass and play it, you'll hear it without the EQ.
Ain't too good at chopping wood, but my daddy
And then you can turn it on.
Need a gal with a nice strong back.
So you see, you can hear the difference right away, and you can make those adjustments. All right, so that's solid. Last one is Andy. So let's go ahead and solo hers. Plug in EQ, and we'll do the same EQ we've been using. And let's go to a preset that says female vox. All right, knocks off the low end. Good. Let's give that a listen. Have to go find where she comes in.
Well, I ain't too good at matching clothes, wearing heels and pantyhose.
Nice.
I need a man that's...
All right. So now I have all of the EQ on all the tracks. You can see when we go to my mixer now with Command equals, the top insert A all the way across is an EQ. And when you click on them, each of them are a different shape. All right. Got the EQ out of the way. Now it says your choice of time domain processor used on the fiddle, something like reverb, delay, something like this. And this is just so you get used to using multiple plugins. All right, so we know the fiddle track is here. I'm going to go to insert B. I'm going to go plugin, and I'm going to do a reverb. And let's do deverb. All right, now you got to be real careful with the mix value. I am going to bring this down to about 30. Keep it large Hall. And let's go ahead and find where that fiddle comes in and see how that sounds. That's pretty. You can hear it has a nice little reverb tail on it now, so that's about 30%. So that's that one, and then the next one says volume automation on all voice tracks. Feel free to use them on other tracks if they need it. Decrease the volume of the singer when they get too loud, increase when they're too soft. And then specifically, I want a little volume automation on the fiddle track right here, because he definitely gets too loud at that point. Let's go ahead and do this automation. So this is step 3 and step 4. And this is when you'll be able to get into your mixer. That's Command equals. And you'll start to set up the value of these tracks. So, for example, do I like where the drums are in relation to everything else? Typically when I mix, I'll start with the drums. And then I'll add in the other things. Like I'll go to the bass now. So now I think the drums are a little loud. I'm going to bring the drums down to about here. All right, now I'll turn on the acoustic guitar. Okay, I just balanced him down. Then the fiddle. The fiddle doesn't come until here, so let's skip ahead a little bit. Alright, now this is interesting because now I think the fiddle's a little quiet, and I don't necessarily want to start bumping him past this 0 line. So I like to start bringing other things down then. So in relation, I'm going to start to bring all of these down so that I don't have to bump or increase that particular volume. Right away, it sounds better like that. All right. So that's the fiddle. Now I can go ahead and do that automation moment on the fiddle track, 121 to 135. So let's go find that section. 121 to 135. Let's zoom in with letter T. All right, here we go. 120. It's this little section right here where the fiddle gets real loud. All right, so we're going to bring up my automation, which is the lower left-hand corner of the fiddle track. And I'm going to go ahead and start to put in some dots here. So remember, you need 2 dots so that you have an anchor point on the left. So there's that one. And I'm going to bring this down. Let's see if I go about -8. That's better. And then he can come back up there. So I'm going to go ahead and do 2 more there. And I'm going to bring that back up to right about where it was. Yeah, that's 0. This is, hold that command key, get it back to 0. Yeah, 135. All right, so I did the right one. Now I have a little decrease in that fiddle part for that section, and that's automation, volume automation. The rest of the automation is going to take place on your voices, so I'm going to go ahead and open everything back up. And now I'm going to go ahead and work with the volumes of these vocal parts so that they're nice and strong when they need to be.
Ain't too good at chopping wood, but my daddy said I should. Need a gal with a nice strong back, childbearing hips in a one-room shack. I'm a hard worker every day. Dirty hands and a little pay. I get up early and I get back late.
Well, I ain't too good at matching clothes, wearing heels and pantyhose. I need a man that's sensitive, stoic and contemplative, a scholar and a gentleman, a collar with strong arms to hold me.
So what is...
All right, I think it's pretty good. I think Andy is a little soft here, so let's go ahead and open up my automation lanes for both Clay and Andy. And when she sings here, I actually am going to want to bump that up. And there are some hints here I can give you, some shortcuts. If I want to increase this whole thing and I don't want to do a clip gain, if I click on it with the grabber, in essence it's highlighting this volume line. And if I go to the top of the line, it turns into a bracket. And I can now click and I can drag this up. And it just boosted that volume for Andy.
Well, I ain't too good at matching.
That's better. So you can see the little change right here. And then when she comes here, I think now Clay is a little loud, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to click here with the grabber, and I'm going to drag this down to maybe -4. All right.
Our mother.
Same thing here. I'm going to drop him down by -4. I'm just clicking and dragging with that bracket.
Our mothers and our fathers expect us to be. Could I be the one who's in your dream?
That's a little loud, but it's not as loud. I'm just going to make that a -2.
Could I be the one who's in your dream?
All right, and then this next little bit.
Could I be?
Still gets a little loud. He gets too loud. I'm going to bring him back down to about -4.
Could I be the one who you redeem?
Nice. So that was automation for that. And now I'm going to check out this one.
I've gotten good at acting sweet, but it's hard to admit defeat. I'm prim and proper and put together. I'm sick and sore under the weather. Got friends in places high and low. Learned things I didn't want to know. Been lifted up, just be let go.
That's good.
Well, I'm getting good.
And he gets real loud. So I am going to drop that down. Let's go to here.
Well, I'm getting good at acting tough, but I haven't gotten good enough. Wanna be on the silver screen. I'm a kind-hearted man that's often me.
All right. And then
So what if?
he's a little loud here too. So you kind of get the idea of what I'm doing.
So what if we're not?
Still too loud. I'm going to keep going down.
So what if our mother,
Yeah, it's too loud.
our mothers and could I be the one who's in your dreams?
All right. Not too bad. I'm going to bump Andy up, though. I'm going to go up. Let's go to +2 here.
Could I be the one who's in your dreams?
Okay, and then
Could I be the one?
gets a little loud. I'm just dropping him down, maybe -2. I'm getting the decimal point moves by holding the command key while I drag.
Could I be the one who you redeem?
She actually gets a little loud there too. Now, if you decide you didn't want to turn the whole thing down, right? Like, what if you just wanted to grab like that part? You can do a highlight here, and now you'll just be working with that little section.
The one who you redeem.
So that's kind of handy in there too.
Been trying hard to understand what
Good.
a man, and every time I fall in love, I hug and kiss and push and shove. I'm solid, then I'm soft, and then I'm gone. And
Jason's a little bit loud here. I'm going to go ahead and just drag him down.
a man, and every time I fall in love, I hug and kiss and push and shove.
All right, I'm happy with that. And then we have this part.
So what if we're not?
He's definitely too loud here.
So what if we're not everything? Our mother,
Really loud here. Might even be more than 4.
our mothers and our fathers expect us to be.
Okay, not too bad. Back here.
Could I be the one who's in your dream?
Okay, I'm going to duck him down just a little bit, but I'm also going to raise Andy here. She got a little weak.
Could I be the one who's in your dream?
Better?
Could I be?
And he got too loud again. Let's go to about 4, -4.
Could I be the one who you?
And then she gets a little too loud here. So, oops. Command Z if that happens. I'll highlight that one and just drop her down like that.
The one who you?
Maybe more.
Be the one who you redeem.
All right, so that's all my automation. Now, I did that very quickly. You're going to want to take more time with it. But in essence, you should have some automation on all of those tracks. All right, now it says step 5, pan each track according to stereo spread. You can look at my notes from the bottom here, suggestions. Keep the drum track panned as is, left, right, bass guitar in the middle, acoustic guitar, little left or right, fiddle, opposite guitar, and then lead vocal, leads in the center, backups a little left or right. Let's go ahead and check that out. So when we talk about panning, we're trying to create a little image spread for in the headphones or the speakers. So I'm going to go acoustic guitar 25 to the left. I'm going to put fiddle about 28 to the right. Jason Vox is a backup. I'm going to put him to the left. Clay and Andy, they sort of trade off, you know, back and forth. So I am going to separate them, but not by a whole lot. I'm going to do about 8. So about 8 degrees there. It just will give them a little spread. So it's not all coming from the middle, for example. And you can get creative with this too. Just don't let things bunch up on one side or the other. All right, create a new Stereo Master Fader and then use a Maxim plugin. So we're almost finished here. All right, so let me kind of deselect this. I'm going to click once on Andy. Let's do Shift Command letter N, and we're going to create a new Stereo Master Fader, Master Fader track. Make sure you change the output, and in my case it went to a non-functioning output, so I do need to change mine. And because I'm making this video, I also have to. Alright, so make sure your Master Fader has a working output. It should be the same as your other ones. Mine's only different because I'm making it for the video. But whatever it says here for your outputs on your tracks, it should also match here. Make sure it's a stereo Master Fader. You see the 2 lights or 2 LED levels here. This is going to let you automate a little fade out at the end. And it's also going to let you put a plugin on the whole mix, what we kind of call this mastering. So we're going to go ahead and add that plugin. We're going to go to the top of the Master Fader track where it says Insert A. We're going to do a multi-channel plugin. We're going to go to the Dynamics category and then go find something that says Maxim. We're going to click it in. And then we're going to use a preset where it says Factory Default, and we're going to pick the first one, CD Mastering. That just gives us a little more volume. Alright, gives us a little more volume of the whole mix. Now we'll do our automation on that Master Fader track. So that's Command equals. We're going to go to that Master Fader, which is here. And we're going to do a real fast fade out right at that last bump, which is right around here. Okay, so right about 307 or so. So let's do 307. Yeah. And I'm going to hold Command key, and it's 2 clicks. Remember, 2 dots. I'm going to drag the second one all the way down until it stops. And it should sound like it goes right out. So it does the hit. And you should be in pretty good shape. If you're not happy with it, you can always hold the Option and you can remove them. Like if you wanted to maybe move this slightly later, like this. Alright, just make sure you don't hear any noise and extraneous stuff at the end there. Okay, great. Now really all that's left is to go ahead and do your mix. And that's a bounce mix. I would do Command S to save, by the way, so save. I'm going to go to that last moment, which is about 308. Just make sure you hit your cursor at the top and you don't do it here. You don't want to be in front, but you want to be just behind that dot right about there. You're going to click and drag all the way to the left. You're going to go to your File menu, and you're going to choose Bounce Mix. Make sure you have your file name. You can call this just Chopping Wood Mix. Put your initials. Make sure it's MP3. File type. Mix source. Make sure that's whatever the output is of your system that you've been using. Right. I'm going to go ahead and put mine here on out 3, but you're going to use your 1 and 2. File format, interleave, sample rate 44.1. Offline, lower left hand corner, and this says prompt for location. I'm putting it into our TVR to a thing, so it'll show up right in here. This is your MP3 tagger. You can just click OK. You can now save it again, and then quit, Command Q. And now you want to go locate that MP3. So let's go ahead and go back to it. Here's my TVR projects. I should see the MP3 in here. It's right here. And then I can audition it.
Ain't too good at chopping wood, but my daddy...
Sounds good. Listen to the whole thing. Make sure you're happy.
Ain't too good at chopping wood.
Make sure you're happy, and then that's what you'll go ahead and submit once you click Start Assignment. All right, so let's click back here. Click Start Assignment. Drag your MP3 that you've listened to right there. There are no questions to answer for this lab, so all you need to do next is click Submit Assignment.